Hey guys, what's up? I'm over here at Avalanche Harley Davidson with the Pan America, which is pretty amazing. I actually get a chance to test drive this bike, which is amazing. The first thing that I'm looking at, look at how tall this bike is. It's pretty amazing. And it's kind of like the Harley Davidson's first entry into kind of like the off-road sport touring type of a bike. So it'd be pretty interesting to actually take a ride in this. I'm really excited. As a matter of fact, I've been looking around at a whole bunch of different dealers and nobody had the Pan America. And I finally came over here to Avalanche Harley Davidson in Golden, Colorado, and they actually had this bike. So I'm really stoked to jump on this bike and take her for a ride. So let's jump over and jump on this bike. As a matter of fact, I'm going to get my helmet and do kind of a moto vlog style, just kind of cruising this bike around, so it'll be pretty awesome. Let's jump on this bike and take it for a spin. All right guys, so we're going to go on a moto vlog and take a look at this. They have me wear this Harley Davidson vest with the license plate on the back of the vest, which is pretty cool. I actually have it right now. Now I'm going to have this guy show me how to start this bike. I have no clue. Oh wow. So is it like a key fob? All right. Awesome. Wow, this thing is really tall. I'm like 6'4", and let me tell you, I am flat-footed on this thing. Wow. Whoa. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Whoa. This is pretty wild. Wow. The first thing I noticed on this bike is it's really super smooth. The suspension is really smooth. And another thing I've noticed on this bike is my feet are way far back. Like my knees are way in front of my the brakes. The brakes are super sensitive and it seems really stable on the road. And oh yeah, it's got some power. And we're riding in the rain. That windshield is worthless in the rain. Let me tell you. Well, at least at this speed, we're gonna get drenched. Pan America. All right, so I have to follow this guy. Whoa, the ground is way down there. It's like, you have to be really tall. So I'm 6'4", and like my heels. Let's see if I can, this is hard to get used to after driving I actually drive a 2007 Harley Davidson Dyna Street Bob that's like, let me see if I can catch up to this guy. And my bike is like, you know, leaning way back. It's got like riding a lounge chair. And this is like, this has kind of like a forward position to where you're driving more of a, I'd say it's more of a sport bike. All right, so I'm gonna close my helmet because we're getting a lot of wind because this windscreen has almost no protection on my head. I'm getting a lot of wind on my head, which is kind of crazy. And it seems, compared to my street bob, a little bit harder to corner. It's a little bit stiffer to corner. Of course, my street bob's kind of raked out in the front. It's really super twitchy compared to this thing. This thing is a little bit harder. It takes a little bit more pressure, and it's a little bit slower when you're going back and forth. It's I'd say maybe a little less responsive. Of course, on the highway, like going this fast, we're going 53. Seems like it's a lot more stable, like it's rock solid on the highway. My helmet's fogging up a little bit. And I noticed the brakes are a little touchy, not too bad. It seems like just about the perfect braking for the front and the rear brakes on this one. It's not like you touch the brakes and you're like, where's the brakes? Or if you touch the brakes, and you're kind of wondering, all right, I want to open this helmet just a hair. I don't know how much wind noise is going to come in this helmet, but we're fogging up a little bit, and it's amazing how much wind is hitting my head compared to mine. Well, I guess my windshield is quite a bit taller than this, so this is kind of like taking all the wind off my chest. But it's definitely kind of pointing at I'd say from my neck. I could feel quite a bit of wind on my neck still. But yeah, this feels, you can feel a little bit on the road. It's not like driving a Cadillac where it's really mushy. You can definitely feel the road, but it's not like really bad where it's like bouncing around. It's really stable. But the kind of the interesting thing about this seating position is, whoa. Let me see. Wow, those front brakes are super touchy. I gotta work on these rear brakes a little bit more. I did not expect them to turn. Yeah, I think the hard thing with driving a different bike is it's just different. Everything's at a different position. The clutch seems really super nice towards it. Doesn't take much effort at all to pull in the clutch. But it's kind of weird. The stance that you have on this bike, it's almost like you're slightly leaned forward to where it almost seems like you have some pressure on your hands just from leaning forward a little bit. It's almost like a sportier position in the regular stance of the bike versus on a lot of your cruisers, you're kind of almost more leaned back on the bike. But it's kind of an interesting ride. And then when you give it gas, you can definitely feel the vibration of the engine through the handlebars. You can kind of feel it more than you can, I'd say, with my cruiser on my Dyna. And boy, it really takes the corners really nice. You feel really confident in the corners on this one. And I would say the seat is pretty hard. Wow. It's like I'm almost tippy-toed on this thing. This thing is crazy. All right, let's see if I can catch up to this guy. Oh, I can't believe how tall this bike is. So if you were anything less than 6 foot, I don't know if this bike would be for you, just because of how tall it is. As a matter of fact, I've seen on some of these models, they have an auto lowering that automatically lowers the bike when you get on it. Ooh, this guy's going through some fancy drives here. And I'm gonna open this just a little bit more because we're out of the rain. And I need to breathe. Whoa. Going through some twisties here. So I've had my share of twisties up in the mountains that prepared me for this ride. This guy's pretty confident on these twisties going through here. And let me tell you, if I was driving like a couple months ago, I would not be confident doing these twisties through here. Look at how beautiful this is through here though. It's definitely, it feels secure on these corners. And kind of the weird thing about this bike is there's wind noise on my helmet to where I almost can't hear the bike. So I almost can't tell what RPMs I'm at. I just have to look down to figure out what the engine's doing as far as the RPMs on this thing. Wow, this is beautiful. Take a look at this through the red rocks here. Huh, I didn't even know this was over here. Huh. Wow. Yeah, I would say that the back brakes are maybe 20% of the front brakes. Those front brakes, let me tell you, when you hit those, when you grab a handful of front brakes, you definitely dive into it versus the back brakes on this. And they can stop on a dime, let me tell you. That's pretty awesome. I like this bike. The other cool thing about this is you can really grab onto the tank with your knees. It's like really solid as far as, oh wow. All right, I'm in neutral. All right, now we got someone between us. The ergonomics of this bike is so different than my cruiser. It's just crazy. Especially when I stop at a stop sign, I'm like, where's the ground? And my feet are dangling. And my knees are forward and my feet are back. Oh, it definitely takes a little bit to get used to this bike. But it's definitely a fun bike. Whoa. Let's see here. Alright. If I can find the blinkers. See if I can dangle my feet here a little bit. Every time I stop, I'm like, where's the ground? Whoa, this thing's got some scary power. Yeah, I'm thinking that front wheel might come off the ground. That's kind of crazy. Wow. Alright, I'm going to close it because closing my visor because we're getting a lot of wind noise. I don't know if you can hear that. It's picking it up. But definitely a lot of wind on this. I'm driving it. As a matter of fact, I think this one's, he was saying that someone bought this and decided they didn't like it and traded it in for something else. So this is like a brand new bike that someone didn't like. I don't know if it was the ergonomics, or maybe I'm thinking maybe they were someone shorter, and every time they stopped they were like kind of freaking out because the ground was so far away. This is a really tall bike. I mean, for me it's perfect being 6'4". This feels really solid in the corners. No problem at all taking the corners. Wow, look at the scenery through here. Wow. I want to figure out where we're going so I can come back here and do one of my moto vlogs on this road. This is pretty awesome. Take a look at this. So yeah, it almost seems like this is what the bike was meant for. Some of these twisties and kind of the rough roads in here. Really handles it really well. I feel really confident on this bike going around these corners. A lot more confident than my Dyna. Of course, the suspension on this is a lot better than my Dyna. As a matter of fact, on my Dyna, I just upgraded my rear suspension to the Legend Revo A's, which made a world of difference, but my front suspension is still pretty rough. And I'm thinking if I upgraded my front suspension, it'd be something like this where I'd be a lot more confident in the corners. But yeah, this is pretty awesome. I can definitely feel in my butt. It has a different feeling. Anyway, I think as the seat's so narrow, it almost feels like, as a matter of fact, it almost feels like my dirt bike, because the seat's almost as narrow as a dirt bike, super narrow. And on my Dyna, my seat's really wide. It's almost like a cruiser seat on that one. So I don't know if you'd feel really comfortable doing like a really long trip on this. I'd say maybe after 2 or 3 hours, you might get some fatigue in your rear end. I'd say this is more for kind of doing like just around town, maybe some, you know, it almost feels like you could go off-road on this one. This feels, this literally feels almost like my dirt bike when I had I think it was a Yamaha IT 450 back when I had that dirt bike. It was one of the biggest dirt bikes that Yamaha made back at the time, and it almost felt like this. As a matter of fact, on that dirt bike, it was almost the same where you were like tippy-toed on the ground because it was so incredibly high off the ground. And I think they do that for the suspension because they want a lot of suspension travel. And this thing's got a lot of power. It's incredible, the power in this bike. It's almost, I'd say it almost rivals my dirt bike when I had that dirt bike. Although that dirt bike, when I had that, I was a lot younger and, you know, I was doing wheelies in every gear. I don't know if I'm brave enough to do wheelies on this thing. But this is a really fun bike. It feels really light and flickable too, which is kind of cool, especially around these corners. It doesn't really feel like it's you know, like it's really heavy around the corners. This guy's a pretty good rider here, kind of zooming through. He definitely knows these corners. They kind of sneak up on me. Yeah, riding this compared to my Dyna, let me tell you, this is like so much more stable. I feel so much more confident around these corners. And the weird thing is when you give it gas, you almost can't even hear the engine because it's really quiet. Versus my Dyna is really super loud. So the other thing about this bike that seems like it's a little bit different than, say for example, my Dyna, is like at the low end, when the engine has like low torque down here. Usually when you first start out on my Dyna, it actually has a lot of power at the low RPMs of the engine. And this one seems like you have to rev up the engine a little bit more in order to get an equivalent power. So it's like the power really kind of comes in, maybe I'd say, I don't really have a tachometer on my bike, but I think most Harleys are like, 2,000 RPM is where a lot of the power is. This one's probably like, maybe like 4,000 or 5,000 RPM to where the power really starts shining. Like on a lot of sport bikes, you'll actually have, that's almost a scary amount of power right there. Yeah, this has a lot of power. This like almost lifts the front end off the ground, which is kind of crazy. I was wondering if this had that's weird. I keep popping into neutral around that corner. Oh, we're gonna stop. It's awesome. It's super fast. It's really flickable around the corners too. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, it is. So does this have the auto blinker off? All right, so I don't have to worry about turning the blinkers on. All right, a streak glide. All right, let's. All right, guys. So I guess we're ending the. Wow, look at this. Oh, it's got the. Oh, look at that kickstand. That's kind of interesting. All right, so this is it. We're ending here, and we're gonna jump up. We're gonna switch bikes. Do a review of this other bike. So thanks for watching, guys. That was the Pan America 1250 by Harley Davidson. Pretty awesome bike. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.